Mothman is the name given to a very strange creature reported in the Charleston and Point Pleasant areas of West Virginia between November of 1966 and December of 1967. The creature was sporadically reported to be seen before and after those dates, with some sightings as recent as August of this year. Most observers describe the Mothman as a winged man-sized creature with large, reflective red eyes. It often appeared to have no head, with its eyes set into a chest. A number of hypotheses have been presented to explain eyewitness accounts, ranging from misidentification and coincidence to paranormal phenomena and conspiracy theories. Mothman. In a moment, Charlie McCracken joins us as we talk about Mothman, and then next hour, two guests join Charlie and as we talk more about Mothman. And in the last hour, we'll keep Charlie for your questions right here on Coast to Coast AM. Charlie McCracken makes his home in the state of Virginia, has honed his skills as a journalist working in television news regionally and nationally, eventually branching out into documentary filmmaking, for which he has won several top awards. His interest in the paranormal began at a very young age with the tragic death of his sister. He is the director of the soon-to-be-released Dark Wings, the Mothman Chronicle. Now, this is a first feature-length documentary ever produced about the Mothman sightings. He's with us throughout the evening tonight on Coast to Coast. Hey, Charlie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, and thank you. And how did you get interested in the Mothman story?
Well, strangely enough, this actually ties into Area 51. Travis Short, my producing partner, and I have always had an interest in the paranormal and basically all things paranormal. And we were actually in Las Vegas attending the National Association of Broadcasters convention in April of '01, I believe it was.
Okay.
And being that close to Area 51, it was, had to go, basically. So we took an afternoon and we went up, and while we were there, we went to the Area 51 Research Center, and I picked up a book there by Jerome Clark about mysteries around the world, and in that they had a passage about the Mothman. So I read that day, basically put the book away when I got back home. A couple of years later, Travis and I were in Huntington, West Virginia, working on a documentary film, and got finished a little early in the afternoon and said, what do we do now? Let's get the map out and poke around and see what's here, and found Point Pleasant. And both of us remembered the Mothman and shot straight over there and basically walked into the town and started talking to people. And the more people we talked to, the more intriguing the story became.
You know, your career, much like mine, Charlie, where we started in television news, and we always had an eye and an ear for the unusual, but a lot of times they kept pushing us into the hard news direction, and I'm glad that you were able to break free from that and start doing some of the things that you like to do with these mysteries, because they are fascinating.
They absolutely are. And, a lot of the times with the stories, and the stories involving the people who were involved in these types of stories, it's just so much more compelling than working in a standard news environment.
I want you to tell everyone, because of your background in television news, how that turned you into the direction of Dark Wings, the Mothman Chronicle, and the skills that it gave you. Because, like me, I came up as a producer and television news director, but it was the many, many years of producing newscasts on a nightly basis, timing, story structure, pacing of a show, that has helped me tremendously on this program. And I thank television news for that, because that's what really honed my skills. In your case, how did that help you?
Well, like you say, that's absolutely right. It's a matter of developing the discipline also. And where it helped me the most was being able to ask questions in a way that would put the interviewee at ease. A lot of the eyewitnesses are very reticent to talk. They received such harsh treatment during the initial event. A lot of them are called crazy or accused of being drunk or high on drugs. Many of them refuse to talk on the record to this day because of the treatment they received then. And one of the ways that we've gone about making the film is to conduct an extensive pre-interview session with each person, where we'll sit down with them, we go over their experience, and it really, the purpose is twofold. It gives them a sense of where we're coming from, and also that we're not there trying to exploit them or make fun of them, and it allows us to ask better questions.
Were you able to go way back to find witnesses from the 1966 period? How far back were you able to go?
We went back and we've interviewed witnesses from the original sightings.
Wow! Now there was one. I haven't seen the documentary yet, and I'm going to. There was one in November of 1966, first sighted by a little boy named Lonnie Button. Is that mentioned at all?
Correct. Right. Yeah, Lonnie Button. And actually, I was going to mention that because it's extremely apropos when going over the Coast to Coast AM website this evening. I noticed on the recently added images, number 3 is Spring Hill Jack.
Yep.
And if you go back and look at the original eyewitness accounts from the sighting on November 12th of 1966, it says they saw a brown human shape with wings soaring from behind the trees and flying over their heads. Now, this happened to 5 men who were working on a grave in a cemetery. So, I mean, the cover of the cereal, the penny cereal, is basically, dead on for that description from the November 12th sighting.
And, you have to weigh, would 5 guys working in a cemetery make this up? Would it be an illusion? Were they so scared about something else that their minds tricked them? I don't know. I don't know, Charlie, but I think something happened to them.
Well, it's a natural tendency when we see something that we don't understand to try and attach some sort of logic to it. But for the number of people who have sighted the creature independently to arrive at the same point, it would seem to be just a little too coincidental.
There's a story, November 15th of that same year, 66. 2 young married couples, they were on a late-night drive. They passed a West Virginia ordnance works. It's an old abandoned World War II TNT factory, and they noticed 2 red lights in the shadows by an old generator plant. So they stopped the car. They went, hey, let's see what this is all about. Startled to discover that the lights were, what they say, glowing red eyes of a large creature shaped like a man, but bigger, 6.5 to 7 feet tall. And they all say, and this is what's fascinating, big wings folded against its back.
Right.
What can it be?
Yeah, what indeed? Yeah, that was Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette. Who had that sighting. We actually we interviewed Linda Scarberry pretty extensively for this, and she has an extended segment in the movie, and she is so terrified to this day. We actually took her back to the site where it occurred at. We went in the afternoon on a nice, bright, sunny day. She was still just absolutely terrified and ill at ease to be there.
You could see that on her? Was she kind of shaking?
Yeah, absolutely, you can. That plays on screen. She was literally shaking. Yeah.
What do you think? Your best guess. We're going to get into your documentary here, but what do you think they saw, Charlie?
Well, there are a lot of theories out there, and they range, anywhere from some of the pollution left over from the West Virginia Ordnance Works. Somehow seeped into the wetlands there in the area called the TNT, and it's called the TNT because that's what they manufactured during World War II. They manufactured trinitrotoluene. Its actual name now is the McClintock Wildlife Area, and it's just that. It's like a large wildlife management area. You can hunt and fish and all that stuff, but there are certain portions of it that are absolutely polluted with these chemicals that are left over. And so part of the theory that some people have is it possible that this is a mutation of some sort?
Can we rule out some guy running around in a costume with wings?
Yeah, I believe we can. Some of the actions taken by the creature, mainly its ability to fly. There are also stories of it leaping from the ground to the top of the North Power Plant on the TNT site. Now, that was 4 stories high. So I don't think it's going to be a man. And as far as the chemical pollution thing, I'm not so sure about the idea of it being a mutation either. I don't really think that holds much water, because you have to remember, between World War II and, well, the end of World War II when the plant shut down and the first sighting, it was only about 20 years.
What about a big bird, though, Charlie? Is that possible? Either a thunderbird, you've heard about those huge birds, or maybe one of these large owls that people have reported seeing. Is that possible?
Right. Well, it could be. They've talked about the owl also. They've talked about a sandhill crane. But the problem with those descriptions, excluding the thunderbird right now, is the size. These birds are simply not that large. The sighting reports talk of a creature between 6 and 9 feet tall.
That's a pretty big bird.
That would be a doggone big bird, with a wingspan in excess of 10 feet.
When you got into the legends, the myths, and the information about Mothman, stumble across anything that really shocked you?
Well, I think what really took me aback when I started delving into the background, not only of Mothman, but the entire area, was just the absolute scale of the oddities that have gone on in this area. You can go back to UFO sightings all throughout that portion of the Ohio River Valley, going back hundreds of years. You have I don't know if you've heard of this, the Curse of Chief Cornstalk. Are you familiar with that?
No, I am not. Tell me about that.
Okay, Cornstalk was a chief of the Shawnee tribe during Lord Dunmore's War. And upon signing peace treaties, he took up residence at Fort Randolph, which was in Point Pleasant. Became a friend of the settlers there, and lived a fairly peaceful life for a few years. Well, one afternoon in the winter, two men from the garrison there were out hunting and were attacked by some Indians from the Mingo tribe. One of them was killed. The other made it back to the fort, reported the murder and the attack, and others in the fort, in a mistaken rage, basically murdered Cornstalk and his son, Elenipsico. And purportedly, with his dying breath, Cornstalk uttered a curse on the lands all around.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can follow that down through the years. There's just been so many different things that have gone really, really wrong with the area. You have the Mothman sightings.
November, what was it, December of 1967, the Silver Bridge, which connected West Virginia and Ohio over the Ohio River. 46 people die when that thing collapses. Didn't people reportedly see Mothman?
On the day before that, there was a report of men in black in or on the bridge and underneath the bridge, doing activities that were reported as almost inspection-like. Now, I don't recall if there was an actual Mothman sighting on the bridge itself in the days prior to or after, but there was definitely this report of the men in black.
So as you began to put this documentary together, when you talked to people and, talked to witnesses, did you have them draw you sketches, or did they show you anything that they might have drawn over the years?
Well, yeah, we took a look at basically everything that we could in the historical record prior to actually interviewing people. We would put our research together. And a lot of those do contain some sketches done by their own hand, some done at their dictation. In addition to that, the police records and all. And as I said before, it's just really stunning how many of these actually add up and point toward the same general description of a character, even though these descriptions come from separate, wholly separate sightings.
Tell me a little bit about the documentary you're putting together, Dark Wings, the Mothman Chronicle, how it might differ from some of the other things we've seen out there.
Well, you know, when we first got into this, and when we first started going to Point Pleasant, we really didn't plan on making a film. We were going just out of our own curiosity, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think it was probably our third or maybe fourth visit there that we made the decision to produce the documentary. But I had some very specific guidelines, if you will, in mind that I wanted to adhere to. If we were going to interview the witnesses, I wanted to do it in a way that didn't exploit them. Now, we had basically devoured every documentary we could find on the subject after our first visit, and I personally found most of them to be very disappointing. While most of them had interviews with the witnesses, those interviews were cut up and reassembled into a series of 10-second sound bites and intermixed. Now, that style can be entertaining, but from a content standpoint, they're nearly useless. So I wanted to think about doing long-form interviews, more, say, like a 60 Minutes kind of interview, as opposed to, you know, a soundbite on Extra.
Right.
Because, you know, I think it's important to hear not only the snippet of the information you're looking for, but what comes before it and what comes after it.
Were you happy with it?
I am. I'm very happy with it. It's a style that's very unlike everything else out there. It's a slightly slower pace, but it gives you the time to actually take in what you're seeing, you know, to absorb what you're hearing, to understand before you're having another image, another piece of content or context thrust upon you. Did
you end with some kind of conclusion, Charlie?
Well, as far as conclusion as to what it may have been, no, we're not. I really wanted to stay away from making that sort of editorial statement. I wanted to go with what these people say they saw, not what I think they saw.
So you keep our minds open to what it might be.
Exactly right. And I think that, you know, goes toward the heart of what I said before in not exploiting these people. You know, not taking little bits and pieces of what they say and constructing it into my own personal Frankenstein.
Charlie, in John Keel's book, Mothman Prophecies from 1975, he throws in everything but the kitchen sink. Parapsychological events, UFO activity, men in black, poltergeist activities, Bigfoot, Black Panther sightings, animal and human mutilations.
Right.
He throws in everything in there.
Exactly, yeah. And the opinion you come away with after reading the book is it could have been anything.
It could have been anything. Well, you know, in the British edition of Mothman Prophecies, they've got a picture on a book called Visitors from Space. It was an article that they did, and it looks like the devil. Think about that, Charlie. The devil. We'll be back in a moment as we talk more about the Mothman Prophecies on Coast to Coast AM. Well, next hour, we're going to be joined by two more experts here associated with the documentary Dark Wings. Travis Short will join us, Matthew Fleming, and we'll be right back with Charlie McCracken on Coast to Coast AM. Charlie, who coined the phrase Mothman? How did we get that name? Do we know?
Actually, I'm not sure who it was. It was a reporter who was covering the story originally back in 1966. This was at the height of Batman on television, and also, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Mothman character in the Batman comics. And somewhere along the way, this gentleman printed Mothman, and it sort of, took off on its own, and it's certainly entered the lexicon. And
sure did.
It's not a very accurate description of the creature, though.
No, and it's misleading, I think, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it couldn't be more un-moth-like. The wings, much more bat-like, membranous. It's just, Mothman just in no way describes this.
You had described Spring-Heeled Jack. Tell us what you think could be the tie-in.
I'm really not sure, other than the ability to seemingly fly or leap, as Spring-Heeled Jack was. And Spring-Heeled Jack, of course, goes back to sightings in London of this, what was purportedly a man of this ability to fly. But he would do it by springing, not necessarily through flight, as in lifting flight. He would just jump from place to place, but extraordinary jumps, hundreds of yards. There have been some sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack in the United States.
Oh, yeah, that they sure have. Some people originally used to say that they thought he had springs on his shoes, but apparently he didn't. And he also had, like, Freddy Krueger-type hands, razor-type hands in some cases.
Correct. And it would wear dark clothing, had a cape that, in a lot of the artistic descriptions or artistic depictions that I've seen are very much like bat wings also.
What's the venue for the documentary? Television, the big screen, internet?
We have some theatrical bookings right now, and we're also going to be looking at doing a direct distribution DVD through outlets such as Amazon.com and other internet distributions. We also have some distribution companies that are going to be handling it in different marketing areas.
Tell me a little bit about the eyewitnesses, Charlie, and the types of people you interviewed for the Dark Wings documentary.
Well, most of these people, and they basically were all ages, but they all were just very genuine people, salt of the earth type people who really had this thrust upon them. They, to this day, a majority of them won't talk about it. They will not talk about it under any circumstance.
Do most of them still live in that West Virginia area, or have they scattered all over the country now?
There's been a general scattering, but you still find a concentration there in the Mason County area.
Did you find that some of them were upset, concerned that you would even bring it up after all these years? Maybe they tucked it away, in their deep-seated mind, and then all of a sudden here comes Charlie McCracken and his team, and you bring it out again. Did they feel uneasy?
Well, one of the things that was a blessing and a curse both was that we really weren't the first people in there to talk about it. There were several crews in there before us. So as far as breaking the ice on bringing this all back out, on rehashing it, we didn't do that. That was the blessing. The curse on that was, we then had to deal with the mess that everyone else had left behind. You would have crews who would come in, and they would promise the sky, basically, get these interviews, and then they scoot out of town, and they're never heard from again, and then the interviews pop up in a million different venues, and, these people never end up getting paid. They don't get any benefit out of it. They're basically exploited. Now, what we've done is we've basically allowed them to tell their story, and something that I think is rather unique in the world of documentary filmmaking is with many of them, we've actually given them the option of reviewing their interviews and approving their interviews before
that is
we'll allow
unique.
them to go into the film.
That doesn't happen. You know that.
It absolutely doesn't. But that was a way of making sure that these people knew that the story they were giving us was the story that was going to be heard, that we weren't going to selectively edit their interviews in order to reach the conclusion that we wanted.
Did any of them say, put that other piece back in or something like that?
No.
So they were all happy with what they saw?
We didn't have a single request for any changes.
That is incredible. What were some of the stories, then, that the witnesses talked about on the documentary? What do they range from?
Well, you have, of course, the most famous of the sightings, which was the Linda Scarberry sighting, which you discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Which was they came upon the creature in the TNT area there at the North Power Plant, which is no longer there now. It actually was torn down in 1995, much to the chagrin of local tourism boards now, I'm sure. But they encountered the creature there. The creature followed them when they fled all the way back to Point Pleasant. And at times, they were driving in excess of 100 miles an hour.
Oh, my.
And this creature stayed right on top of them.
I mean, could they see, Charlie? Could they see the creature? And was it flying or running?
It was flying, but it wasn't flapping its wings. There was no explanation on how it actually achieves propulsion. It just flew. And the wings remained, they were used mainly for, I guess you would say, navigation, for turns and for banking and rolling, but almost like an airplane.
And did they see it? Is that how they knew it was following them?
They saw it, yes, they did. And they also heard it as it was scratching across the top of the car, across the roof of the car.
So it was trying to get in.
Yeah, that was the take that Linda Scarberry had. Like I said, she was absolutely terrified that night, and to this day is still terrified. When we finished some of the animation work that we did, we showed her a 3-minute composite clip, which it was astounding to watch her.
Was it based on her description?
It was based on her description, and she began watching it, and the longer she watched it, the more she drew in on herself. But she watched the whole thing and then told us that it was the most accurate and the most terrifying description or depiction that she's seen of what she said she saw. And I asked her if she wanted to see it again, and she refused. She said she did not want to see it again.
I don't blame her. Probably bringing up some bad memories for her, huh? Many nightmares, I bet, for her.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But it was important for us to get her feedback on that.
Did anybody say that they thought these were demons, or this was a demon?
At the time there was some discussion. I can't recall who it was that had brought up the hypothesis, but since that time, it has really taken off, and especially with some of the research and works of L.A. Marzulli.
Oh, yeah. And Lynn's been on the program. He does a great job.
Yeah, he does. He does a fantastic job. Just an absolutely compelling writer. He actually and Travis have struck up a friendship of late. We early on had requested L.A. to do a critical review for us. And in the process of doing that, Travis got to know him. And Travis is a theologian also. So they have a common grounding there.
All right, and I look forward because we're going to have Travis up at the top of the hour in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll have plenty to add on that topic.
When you were finished with this documentary, Charlie, what did you come away with? And I know you didn't tell us in the documentary what it is, because we don't know. But, I mean, personally, what did you walk away with? How did you feel?
As far as what it may have been?
Or what it could have been, what it meant?
Right.
What the reason for this thing to be here? I mean, could it have been an extraterrestrial left behind? Who knows?
Exactly. Well, my job is basically to tell the story, to relay the events as they're told to me without coloring them with my own opinion. But that's not to say that I don't have one. It seems logical to me that given the sheer number of sightings and the people involved, the fact that the descriptions don't have a great degree of discrepancy, and that those people, they saw something real. They saw something concrete and, to them at least, seemingly tangible. Now, was it a sandhill crane? as some skeptics have put forward, well, like I said before, no, I don't think it could have been just from the sheer size alone. I don't think you're going to mistake a bird of that size for a 6 to 9 foot tall biped with wings.
What if it was? Did anybody ever say that it was a huge insect? I mean, hence the name Mothman, of course. But I mean,
Right.
Did anybody say it was? They thought maybe it could have been an insect?
I have not encountered anyone who said that.
Okay, that would be fascinating. Maybe it is.
Actually, that would be very fascinating.
I mean, it's got the wings. It's got the funny head.
Right.
Who knows? How about has anybody reported getting hurt by this thing?
Directly injured by it, no. No, they haven't. There was one episode where a woman was startled while she was holding her baby. She dropped the baby and then fell on top of it. But as far as anyone being harmed directly, physically by the Mothman, there haven't been any reports of that.
Wouldn't it be something one day if some family cleaning out the closet of their dearly departed grandfather finds a costume, a Mothman costume? Though I doubt that. You never know.
And the big wooden Bigfoot boots.
What about photographs, films from that era? Has anybody ever captured anything on film or on photographs?
There really wasn't anything captured on film or in photograph at that time of the Mothman. Now, you have some photographic evidence of the UFO activity in the area, but none of the Mothman itself. There have, since then, with subsequent sightings down through the years to present day, there are some photographs out there that purportedly show Mothman.
Outside of Linda Scarberry, any other witnesses you talked to?
Yeah, several. Just recently we talked to Faye DeWitt, actually, who she and her brothers and sisters had seen the creature. I don't recall. It was a few days after the original sighting.
Okay. What'd she say?
Well, they had been to the drive-in theater, which was directly across the river from Point Pleasant. Now, Point Pleasant is, of course, on the West Virginia side. Across the river is Gallipolis, Ohio. They had been over there to the drive-in theater, and after that decided, for fun, they'll go look for this big bird that everybody's been talking about. So they get up there, they go to the power plant, and they sight it. Well, her brother, being the more, I guess, bellicose of the group, gets out, starts yelling at it, starts pitching lumps of coal at it. It comes after them. They then get in the car. It backs away and leaps from the ground to the top. And then they turn and retreat.
Lauren Coleman, cryptozoologist, researcher, says that early eyewitnesses never described a moth, but a large bird, which actually was seen and flew from the scene of the initial sightings at that TNT plant. Further, he says the word Mothman was an invention, and you're right, by an Ohio newspaper copy editor. So I've got this just in, after the first news stories of the big bird's sightings. And there were some hoax stories tossed in there as well, which always makes it difficult, Charlie, when you're trying to uncover the truth, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And you always have that, though. You know, you always have people who, and I guess it's their way of trying to latch on to some of the notoriety or some of the fame, some of the exposure going on around whatever event it is. You're going to have those people, and you've got to be very cautious as a journalist.
Well, I got to tell you, even if Mothman ended up being a large bird, 6 to 7 foot bird standing up is a pretty huge bird. That's a story, Charlie, all by itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, I don't think it would have, you know, no pun intended, it would have the legs that this story has, to use an industry term. Because, I mean, this whole event of Mothman has really had such a life. You know, a lot of things will occur They'll get some exposure. People will talk about them for a few years. And then there's sort of just something you'll come across in a book occasionally. Not with this. You know, you had John Keel's book that came out in the 70s, which brought a lot of interest up, and then that sort of subsided down and all. And then with the movie that came out based on Keel's book, it just absolutely exploded. Absolutely exploded.
While doing the documentary, did anybody in these regions threaten you or tell you, stop doing this, get out of here?
No, they actually didn't. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that when we first began going up there, and this was before we decided to do the film, we got to know a lot of the people. And one of the things we did was getting to know the right people also, getting to know people in economic development, getting to know people in tourism, you know, going to the mayor, talking to the local business people. And they, in turn, were able to sort of plug us in to the others, you know, and network our way into it. So instead of, you know, cold calling people and knocking on their doors, you know, we were able to have people do a Godfather call for us. You know, they would call and say, you know, these people are making this movie. Would you mind if they talked to you?
Well, I just came back a few months ago from Roswell, New Mexico, for their 60th anniversary of the Roswell crash. And there's no question that episode, whatever it might have been, brings tours people into that city. Is that the same with Mothman? Is there a place there, let's say Point Pleasant, where they have a Mothman museum, or exactly. I know they have a statue there. What's right. going on?
They do have a Mothman museum, and it's right in the downtown area. It's actually run by Jeff Wamsley, who is an author also and has two
right.
of what I think are probably the best research-based books on Mothman out there. Mothman Behind the Red Eyes, and Mothman, The Facts Behind the Legend, I believe. But they contain not only interviews with some of the witnesses, but also just a plethora of news clippings from the area, which are absolutely invaluable.
If you had to weigh it, would you say, one, people are seeing something? Would you agree with that?
I would, absolutely. They're seeing something.
And would you say it might be more animal, like a bird, than something paranormal or mysterious, like a creature?
You know, I'm going to have to lean toward creature.
Really?
I think so, yeah. It's just I have tried over and over plugging in every animal, every creature, or, you know, regular creature that I could think of into that mold, and nothing seems to fit.
Stay with us. Next up, while you're with us, Charlie, Travis Short will join us as well. While our Mothman stories continue, in just a moment, Travis Short joins us. He's been part of this documentary, Dark Wings, as well. So he's next on Coast to Coast AM. Well, our next guest joining Charlie McCracken is Travis Short. He's been interested in the paranormal, the supernatural, the occult since a very young age. He trained early in his life to be a minister and holds a degree in English and a concentration in communication from the University of Virginia's College at Wise, and is near completion on his master's in theology from Masters International School of Divinity. His professional background is in broadcasting, marketing, and public relations, and currently serves as director of communications for Black River Films. He is also the host, narrator, producer, researcher, and writer of Dark Wings, The Mothman Chronicle. Travis, how are you?
Doing very well, George. Thank you very much. And I apologize for my voice.
Well, you know, you've got that radio voice right now. Sometimes I wish I had that.
I also have an upper respiratory infection.
Well, you take care of yourself with that. Those things can get out of hand sometimes.
Yes, they can.
Now, tell me a little bit about your history and your interest in this.
In the documentary itself?
Yeah.
And in Mothman?
And the paranormal, too, as well.
As you mentioned, I've had an interest in the paranormal and the occult for many years. Probably one of the things that set that off was the death of my grandfather when I was 4, one of the earliest memories I have. And at that point, I became very interested in the aspect of life after death, and grew up in a very conservative Christian home. As I mentioned, I trained to be a minister. And I don't think that you can go through life and call yourself a Christian if you don't have some type of belief in the supernatural and the paranormal. It's just kind of embedded in our religion. So from that, my interests developed once I got into college. My freshman composition class, we had to choose a topic, research it, write it. I chose the rise and prevalence of Satanism and the occult among American teenagers, and interviewed juvenile counselors, ministers, psychologists, police investigators, and actually became somewhat of a local expert on that topic. And everything else kind of fell into place from there as far as interest in UFOs and hauntings and Mothman and topics along those lines.
Did you ever come across any of the Mothman stories that would lead you to believe, Travis, that what we're dealing with here is some kind of demonic creature?
Personally, yes. As Charlie has mentioned, that's not really an approach that we're taking for this documentary. But one of the things that struck me very early on was that every eyewitness of Mothman basically said the same thing. They were terrified. This was not something that they really wanted to talk about. This is not something that they viewed with fondness. This is something that shook them to their very core. And one of the other disturbing things about the Mothman sighting was that everyone commented on the eyes of this creature, and that while the descriptions vary, as Charlie has mentioned, you have descriptions of this creature being between 7 and 9 feet tall. There are individuals that some say there are feathers, some say there are not. Some say that it looked like he was wearing a shiny suit. Some say it looked like his skin was gray. So there are varying descriptions, but the one thing that remains true is that everyone that saw this creature was mesmerized by the eyes. And most individuals, when they recount seeing this creature, talk about absolutely losing control of themselves while looking at this creature. They felt like they were being drawn toward it. They felt like, and I'm inserting a word here, they don't use this word, but the description is they felt like they were being possessed, that this thing was actually taking control of their mind and taking control of their actions. And to me, both of those things sound very much like demonic possession and interaction that individuals have with demonic spirits.
Some of the drawings that I've seen, Travis, this thing looks like the devil.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. One of the things, and I know Charlie has touched on this already, the whole idea of the name Mothman is very off-putting, and it actually takes you down a road leading you away from what this thing really does look like, because there's nothing about this creature that is moth-like. Most descriptions of this creature are very devil-like, very demonic, red glowing eyes, these bat-like wings. I mean, this is something you would expect to see rising out of the bottomless pit in the book of Revelation.
Well, that's a good point. I asked Charlie, and I'm going to ask you, Travis, if you had to say what you thought this creature could be, one, would you agree that these witnesses have seen something very unusual?
Yes.
In that case, animal? Insect?
I highly doubt it. I know the theories that abound by the skeptics are sandhill crane, a snow owl, possible genetic mutation from the chemicals that were present in the TNT area during World War II. None of those make sense to me. None of those explain this creature. What I am struck by, and this is me personally, we are not in this documentary attempting to explain what Mothman is. This is to provide a snapshot. But personally, I view this apparition, this appearance, as a demonic manifestation.
Well, I'm beginning to lean that way too, Travis. whatever this thing might be. It is also ironic that we just had a recent sighting, August of 2007. The creature's out there. Whatever it is still around.
Yes, there are several fairly recent sightings. One in Middle Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, in the 2005 year. Of course, one of the most, frequented pictures that's out on the web right now is supposedly a Mothman sighting at ground zero of 9/11. And right now, a flurry of activity in Wise County, Texas, site of the Aurora UFO crash in 1897.
That's interesting. And what's the significance of the sightings down there now?
There are a couple. One being that many of the eyewitnesses there, and this is one of those interesting little coincidences that seems to arise in the Mothman lore, many of their names or their last names also either fit the last names of eyewitnesses in West Virginia or the last names of individuals who were killed in the collapse of the Silver Bridge.
Now, the fact that we are getting more sightings of Mothman, and generally we get some of these sightings during moments of catastrophes and calamities.
Yes.
Everybody, as you know, Travis, is talking about another possible 9/11 or that some kind of an event could occur. Do you see any tie-in here?
I think it's very possible. One of the things that I think is very interesting in the Mothman lore, the debate has raged for 40 years. Did Mothman cause the collapse of the Silver Bridge, or was Mothman there to announce the collapse of the bridge? Was he a messenger? And I think the question we have to ask ourselves is this creature, or are these creatures? Because I also lean in the direction that there were multiple creatures in Point Pleasant. There was not just one Mothman. I believe there were actually several.
Like a family of them?
Well, if you want to call it a family, perhaps. I think the variations in description of Mothman are not necessarily related to the fact that the individuals saw the same entity but describe it differently, as much as that what they saw was a different creature at different times. There were over 100 sightings of this creature between 1966 and 1967 in 5 counties, many of them simultaneously or close to simultaneously, hundreds of miles apart. So I don't think that there was one creature that was being seen. I think there were several.
It is
and I
bizarre.
think that may be happening again. And I think you bring up a good point, that what we may be seeing is that this creature does, in some form or fashion, tend to announce these impending tragedies.
What do you think? Charlie, let's bring you in on this. What do you think of the impending tragedies, Charlie, the possibilities there?
Well, absolutely. If you ascribe to the idea that the Mothman appearance in Point Pleasant was in some way a harbinger of the collapse of the Silver Bridge, then, absolutely it would make sense to extrapolate from that and say that the sightings that are going on now are much the same. They're precursor warnings or harbingers of catastrophes or catastrophic events yet to pass.
Travis, the fact that you have a background in theology, does that give you a different oversight of this situation?
I think it allows a slightly different perspective. If you talk to Charlie and Matthew and myself, we each have a slightly different take on this. One of the things that I have found interesting, L.A. Marzulli and I are very good friends, and as Charlie's mentioned, he is writing the score for this documentary. Mm-hmm. And actually, he and I have been talking about, and Black River has been working on a sequel to this documentary. It's in pre-production right now, which will actually tackle the religious implications of Mothman. And we are looking at the concept of this winged creature that tends to exist in most world religions. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, the South American religions, the Aztecs, the Mayans, all of them have this appearance at times of winged creatures. And I was in Italy a couple of months ago, and was shooting actually a segment for that particular piece. We shot at St. Peter's Square, Castel Sant'Angelo, the Bridge of Angels, and in several of the cathedrals there. And one of the things that Lynn and I want to do in that particular documentary is to approach the Mothman sightings of 1966 and 1967 from a theological and a religious perspective. Not just what did it do to the worldview of these eyewitnesses, but the description of this creature, the supposed prophecies that were occurring not from Mothman, as the movie indicated, but by another entity that had appeared about 70 miles away from Point Pleasant in Mineral Falls, West Virginia, an entity that called itself Indrid Cold, and that was offering prophetic announcements of impending doom and assassinations and the rise of the Antichrist, and things that are very much spiritual / religious / theological in nature.
How accurate was this thing?
How accurate were the prophecies that ended Cold? Some of them came to pass, some did not. According to Cold, and John Keel recounts this in his book, The Mothman Prophecies, there was supposed to have been an assassination attempt on the Pope at a certain time. It happened several years later. Cold did prophesy the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy and of Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, I'd give him a hit on the Pope. The fact that it was a few years later.
Yeah. And of course, the major prophecy that was a little vague, as prophecies tend to be, was this impending disaster on the Ohio River. And Keel, in his book, talks about how that he really thought that was going to be an explosion at one of these power plants. It turned out to be the collapse of the Silver Bridge, claiming 46 lives.
What was your impression of Point Pleasant when you were out there?
Loved the town. It, at first, is a very unassuming place. It's a very quaint river town. The locals are absolutely wonderful, just as Charlie said, salt of the earth people. It's a very picturesque town. It is surrounded by lush farmlands. But what you get when you enter Point Pleasant is that this is also a town that still has a 40-year-old scar, and that scar is the way that the town has changed since the bridge collapsed. Of course, they built the Silver Bridge Memorial Bridge a little further downstream, and what happened, that bridge, the main bridge that collapsed in 1967, actually cut Point Pleasant off from Ohio. It was the main thoroughfare into the town, and it was about 10 years before that bridge was rebuilt.
10 years?
10 years. So you had individuals on the Ohio side that were actually that would have to drive 20 miles upriver to the next bridge, cross the bridge, and drive 20 miles back just to get to Point Pleasant. So you're talking about a 40-mile one-way trip.
And the traffic must have been unbelievable every day.
What's happened is the town has had somewhat of an economic setback because of that. They still have not recovered. They are just now beginning to get their feet back on the ground. We've done a lot of work and talk with Charles Humphreys, who is the Director of Economic Development for the town of Point Pleasant. We've dealt with Denny Bellamy, who is the Director of Tourism. And one of the things that you also discover entering this town is that there's still very much a division in this town over Mothman.
I was going to say, are there some people who don't believe it?
There are some that do not believe it. There are some that refuse to acknowledge it. The town, of course, has the Mothman Festival every year, taking place next weekend, and that was something that was met with some resistance. There's a statue of Mothman on Main Street. That was met with resistance.
12-foot statue, right?
Yes. And it's, you get the distinct impression that the town is divided over, did this happen, did it not happen? If it did happen, was it a creature, or did they see the sandhill crane? Did they see the snow owl? What really is going on? So there's still a tension that exists when you hit the town of Point Pleasant. They are just now embracing Mothman, and really, as Charlie mentioned, a lot of these folks don't like talking about it even to this day. They're uncomfortable. They've been made fun of. They've been ridiculed. They've been ostracized. And one of the things that you walk away, or that at least that I've walked away from every interview that I've done, I've walked away with a great deal of respect for each of the eyewitnesses, what they have endured, and the fact that their lives are still intact in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I concur 100% with Travis on that.
Well, I got to tell you, it is a mystery that will have no conclusion, as you had in your documentary. No conclusion. You really can't. But it keeps the mind alive.
It does.
Yeah. And it is one of those bizarre stories. What's your reaction to the Richard Gere Mothman Prophecies movie?
Personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. Kind of like a 2-hour X-File episode. What I disliked about the movie is that it was convoluted in that they tried to make the Mothman apparition and the Indrid Cold character to be one and the same. And I think that's very confusing, and I think it's very important. And this is one of the things that we have gone to great lengths in our documentary to do, is to basically segment each of the events that was taking place. What you find in Point Pleasant, and the way that I refer to it, it is a Pandora's box of paranormal activity. It's not just Mothman. It's Indrid Cold. It's Men in Black. It's UFO sightings. There's haunted houses. There are occult activities that are going on. Even to this day, we were warned a couple of years ago. We were there in October, and we were warned not to go to the TNT area in the month of October because there were covens of witches and Satan worshipers and things that were still practicing out there at this time. So you've got all of these things taking place, like Charlie mentioned, the cornstalk curse, all of these things that are just prevalent and present in this tiny little river town.
The place is a hotbed of activity. Why?
It is. I have no idea. Charlie has an interesting theory about that, and it's about the location and the geographic situation of the town.
And what's that theory, real quickly, Charlie?
Well, it deals with, basically, Point Pleasant is situated at the confluence of the Kanawha River and the Ohio River, both just massive bodies of moving water there. And one of the thoughts that I had was, what physical manifestations are being brought about by all of that moving water? Do you have maybe some electrical energy? Do you have some magnetic disturbance caused by that amount of water? And
that's an interesting theory.
That as is affecting. In a way looking at it in a bifurcated way would be, is it affecting the people and making them imagine these things?
Well, that's a good question. Good question. Hold on. We'll be right back on Coast to Coast AM. Travis, thank you. Up next, Matthew Fleming. And another member of the documentary team, Matthew Fleming, joins us in just a moment. We'll pick up on Charlie McCracken's story about the converging rivers there and get his take on that. Also, next hour, we will take your phone calls if you want to relay perhaps a Mothman story or a sighting or just a question. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, Charlie, before I bring in Matthew Fleming, let's let you finish up on the water theory you've got there.
Yeah, just the idea was that, you have these millions and millions of gallons of rushing water converging from these two great rivers, and just, is it perhaps giving off some sort of energy? Is it taking energy away? Is it creating some sort of magnetic anomaly? And is that in some way affecting the way the brain functions in the area there? Or, looking at it from another perspective, is that, maybe looking at the ultra-dimensional or interdimensional aspect of some of the theories of Mothman, is that perhaps opening a portal to another dimension?
That's a good point. Yeah, is it a dimensional being as well? Well, let's bring in Matthew Fleming, a native of Virginia. Matthew has had a long interest in science, the space program, the paranormal, since a very young age, like a lot of us. And he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in natural science from the University of Virginia's College at Wise. And for the past 9 years or so, he has a career in the criminal justice field. In 2003, he became involved with Travis and Charlie to launch Black River Films. For Black River Films, Matthew does the research and has helped in the final editing of script drafts. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing fine, George. How are you?
Good. Criminal justice, were you a police officer?
Actually, I work in corrections.
Yeah, well, that's a tough job, too, isn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, it is. It has its ups and downs. It's basically like any other job. You got good days and bad days.
My son got a degree in criminal justice, and he just still doesn't know how he wants to apply it yet.
Well, there's so many different, avenues you can take with that degree.
Yeah.
Even teaching, you can get into corrections, police work, work for the federal government. There's just so many different things you can do with it.
Tell me your interest in Mothman, Matthew.
Well, actually, Travis and Charlie got me interested in it. As Charlie told you earlier, when they was in Las Vegas and picked up the book. Well, we talked quite a bit amongst one another, and they called me and they said, we're actually pretty close to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And, of course, they told me the story about the Mothman and the chapter in the book that Charlie had. And we got to looking, we're only about 200 miles away from Point Pleasant. And
right.
They'd already been there, and they said, you need to go with us and see this place. So, as you know, I said, okay. I go with them one time, and it just kind of really piqued my interest. And we wanted to find out more, as much as we could about it.
Do you think your interest in criminal justice kind of pushed you a little bit deeper into this story?
Yeah, I do, actually. My wife always of course, my science background, too. I'm a very analytical person, and I have an open mind about things, and I'm always, I guess, trying to explain things. And I think that's what I bring to this, team. We all have our different, what we bring, our different
strengths. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you frustrated, Matthew, that we don't have a definitive what this thing might be?
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of people, especially the original eyewitnesses, 40 years ago, even still today, was speaking with them. I mean, they're still haunted by it. And I think that some closure for them would be, really what was it? And why is it here? And, why did I see it? And I think that, it would ease a lot of minds if a lot of people, if it was brought forward what it was, and we did find out what it was.
When the witnesses were talking, Matthew, did you try to look at them in terms of, from the perspective of a guy who knows criminal justice, whether you think these people were lying or not, or creating a hoax? Did you try to look for body language and look at their eyes and things like that?
Well, of course, you're going to do that if you've been involved in that kind of work for a while.
Absolutely.
But, just like Charlie and Travis said, these people are genuine, and they are very genuine in telling their story.
You could feel that, couldn't you?
Yeah, you can feel it. I mean, you can, just by sitting and talking to them, I mean, they actually saw something, and like Travis mentioned earlier, there was over 100 sightings. And the sightings are pretty common in what they saw. Now, some of them, if there was a lot of differences, you could probably look into that, but these are they seem to be related.
How many similarities were there in terms of eyewitness testimony? Because to me, that's very important.
Oh, yes, very important. The description of it. Travis mentioned earlier he thought that they might have been a number of these beings. And in a way, I kind of lean towards that myself because me and him was talking the other day, and some of the descriptions of the height in our research that we've done, anywhere from 6 to 9 feet tall.
Jeez.
So it just depends on who you talk to. Some people say 6 feet. Some people go on to say 9 feet. Now, that could have been what the environment was at the time, or it could have actually been, what they perceived. It may have been perceived as being larger than what it actually was.
Charlie and Matthew, do you two know if there were any tape recordings of people calling emergencies, 911, if they had that at the time? I'm sure they did in 1966. Do we know if any of that exists?
I'm not aware of any. We've done some asking, and no one seems to think there are.
Matthew, that would have been incredible if we could have that.
Well, yeah, it would have been really. I mean, it would have been wonderful. Of course, at that time period, when they did the police reports, of course, a lot of things have changed since then. But at that time, you just basically wrote out your statement.
Do you remember if they had the emergency 911 phone call to a dispatch?
I don't think they did.
No, they didn't.
They went. I think they went straight after they saw the thing and come down Route 2 from the TNT area, going back into town.
If we needed to check with like Point Pleasant police and ask them if they tape recorded their phone calls, I guess that's a possibility that we could check, right?
Oh well, I'm sure it is. But I've not heard anything that they've done that.
Gosh, that would be incredible, tucked away in some closet, tapes of people calling in on Mothman sightings.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Were there any law enforcement sightings of Mothman?
I'm not really for sure. I don't think there were. Actually, there may have been one that I can think of. But if there was, it wasn't many that I know of.
What do you think, Matthew, this creature might be?
Well, seems like every time that we've went to Point Pleasant, all three of us on the trip up, this comes up all the time. We're constantly just trying to, get it in our minds, what could this thing be, trying to explain it. And they've pretty much, Travis and Charlie both, has explained what we've discussed from an extraterrestrial, somebody that's been left behind, an alien's been left behind, a demon. I don't think they've mentioned this, but an evolved species or a mutated animal of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Or, as I brought up, an insect, a huge insect.
Yes. I mean, the list goes on and on. I really didn't.
But you don't have a particular thought? You're not leaning
not really.
somewhere?
It would be nice to, of course, see the thing to, try to come to a conclusion about it. But I don't know. There's so many different things it could be. I'm definitely leading towards the paranormal. It could be something that we don't yet know of. Perhaps maybe a Bigfoot, or just an unknown species.
With wings?
Yes.
Or something, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, we did get the report that the thing flew chasing a car. So whatever it is, it's got an ability to fly.
Right, and I guess that's the way I kind of lean towards. Maybe just an unknown species of some sort.
Of everything you've heard, Matthew, in this case, is there one thing that really intrigues you about it?
Well, like Travis and Charlie's already mentioned earlier, and I'm going to mention this now, but one of the things that we did first notice is how similar it is to the area we live in. And it's a small rural area, and the people are down to earth, the genuine people. You go into town, talk to the town people, they act as they've never met a stranger at all. We've made many friends over the last 3 to 4 years, and I'd say what was most intriguing to me is these people have nothing to gain from the story of the Mothman. It's 40 years old. Nothing has changed. The stories hasn't changed. People stuck to what they...
Same story
for the last 40 years. And, anybody that could go, that was able to visit Point Pleasant, would see this if they was to go into town one day. And
Matthew, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And Charlie and Travis, I'm sure, would agree with me on that.
If you were still in law enforcement and you were packing and you saw a Mothman, would you take a shot at him?
I don't think I would.
What if he was attacking?
He tried to harm somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it came at you, you have no choice.
Right. I mean, you got to protect yourself and protect others. I mean, that's one of the first things you're taught. And, if it wasn't trying to harm anything, then no.
Charlie, did anybody report taking a shot at this creature?
No. No. Although there were basically when news of the sighting got out, the area, the TNT area there, which actually was used at the time by teenagers for drag racing. The primary road in, I believe it's called Camp Conley Road, is just an absolute straight shot. I mean, it is almost like a landing strip for about a mile and a half, 2 miles. And so it then branches out into all these tiny little roads that go off and meander all around the wildlife management area. But when the first sightings were reported, the place was just absolutely clogged with rubberneckers. They wanted to come and see what was going on, and I'm sure many of them were out there packing guns. But I personally haven't heard of anyone taking a shot at the Mothman.
For that 1 year period, 66 to 67, with all these sightings, did the sightings diminish, Charlie? And if they did, why? What do you think?
They did diminish drastically, just absolutely dramatically after the collapse of the Silver Bridge. And I think that has fed a lot of the theory about Mothman being a harbinger for the collapse of the bridge. He was there, the first sightings, if you take into account the Scarberry Millette sighting, which was on the 15th of November, 1966, and the collapse of the bridge, which was December 15th, 1967. It's exactly 13 months.
Matthew, why do you think the cases dropped so dramatically?
Well, I'm like Charlie. If it was a harbinger for the events to happen, I think that, it's pretty, seems to be related. You mean just leading up to it. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is that at that time there was a lot of UFO sightings in the area. A lot, especially around the TNT area.
And pretty legitimate ones, too.
Very legitimate ones.
Credible people.
Yeah, from many people, and they're still happening there today.
Some of the people who reportedly saw UFOs, did they also report the Mothman sightings?
Some of them did. I know in Keel's book, he specifically mentions seeing UFOs himself.
If it's a physical being, perhaps an extraterrestrial left behind or something, do you think it's still around? Do you think it's still alive, Matthew?
It's very possible. Actually, they have a report of a sighting at the Mothman Museum there. We was actually up there in December of 2004, and it was either a couple of days before or a couple of days after we was there. They had a sighting.
A sighting of a UFO or of a Mothman?
Of possibly Mothman.
Huh. So it's probably still out there somewhere.
So it's very possible. I think it is.
Well, you know what, Charlie? What are the possibilities that it's just a species that we just haven't discovered yet?
I think that's, it's entirely possible. It happens, but when it does happen, it's usually in an extremely remote area with very little human habitation, and that's just not the description of this area.
Are there caves in that area?
There absolutely are. The entire area is riddled with caves. And on top of that, where it occurred at, the TNT, the former West Virginia Ordnance Works, is just riddled with underground tunnels. There, many of which were reportedly sealed up when the Ordnance Works closed. Additionally, you have, I think it's 5,000 to 8,000 acres, a lot of which are covered in igloos, which are concrete and steel reinforced cylindrical type structures that were used for storing the TNT.
What if this creature lives deep within the planet? A natural, whatever it may be, lives inside the planet, in a deep cave, or in what some people call the hollow earth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely, that's as good an explanation as many of the others out there.
And there could be a whole family of them, or a population of them.
Right, there could be, and that would go into explaining the slight discrepancies in the descriptions One of the things that I don't have a problem with really, but would take a little bit of an argument with, is the idea that these are multiple creatures, but not necessarily a familial relationship. So that they're the same type of creature, but they're there on a mission of some sort with some sort of sentience. And
they could be reptilians.
Right. Exactly. I mean, if you think about it, it's not. I mean, if you take the flight away, it's not that far a leap from one to the other.
Matthew, what do you think of that theory that this creature lives within the planet?
I think it's a very, very good theory. That could explain why it seems to pop up. I mean, it's been sighted all over the world. As Travis mentioned earlier, Wise County, Texas. There have been sightings in Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, a lot of the surrounding states too. West Virginia, Ohio. I mean, that could definitely be that's a very good theory. It could be definitely possible.
Did anybody report that it could have some kind of intelligence behind it? I mean, did it act like it knew what it was doing?
From a lot of the reports, I mean, we haven't caught it or found one of them dead anywhere. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, I think it's a highly intelligent creature.
So it reasons.
Well, just the way it seemed to have. I mean, it struck fear in the people that saw it. They was mesmerized by it. It seemed to, and a lot of people has said that has cited it is that the eyes were hypnotic, almost hypnotic.
Where does Black River Films go next?
Well, as Travis mentioned earlier, we want to try to expand and do a second with a different take on it, a second documentary.
That's where the Hollow Earth theory comes in.
Right, and the religious aspects and everything.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
We would like to even do more projects than that. We've had a lot of fun doing this one, and the people we've met. I mean, they've been great. We've even like to get into the investigations of UFOs and maybe some ghost hunting.
All right, the supernatural is big stuff. Matthew, thank you. Charlie, we're going to keep you in case anyone has a Mothman question. But as far as the rest of the phone calls, if you have a Mothman story, check in with us as well. I'm George Norrie, and this is Coast to Coast AM.